Hope everybody is able to see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
So,
You
okay.
can start.
Jai
Start.
Baba. Sorry.
Start record. Start recording.
Yeah, I started recording, but let me check one more time. Yeah, I started recording.
It is.
And,
It has started. Yeah.
yeah, it is started. And we always start with the how to love God, right? That's the every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Many times. Yeah.
yeah, many times. So I will start with the reading this one,
Yeah.
and we'll go to the name to the Mehera. So how to love God? To love God in the most practical way is to love our fellow beings. If we feel for others in the same way as we feel for our own dear ones, we love God. First one. If instead of seeing faults in other, we look within ourselves, we are loving God. If instead of robbing others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others, we are loving God. Third, if we suffer in the suffering of others and feel happy in the happiness of others, we are loving God. Fourth, if instead of worrying over our own misfortunes, we think of ourselves more fortunate than many others, we are loving God. If we endure, fifth one, if we endure our lot with patience and contentment, accepting it as His will, we are loving God. Sixth one, if we understand and feel that the greatest act of devotion and worship to God is not to hurt or harm any of His beings, we are loving God. Seventh, to love God as He ought to be loved, He must live for God and die for God, knowing that the goal of all life is to love God and find Him as our own self. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Jay.
Okay, so I will start from the place where we stopped last time, which is start from the back at Mehrabad. From the
Ashish, can
Mehrabad,
you enlarge that so that we can see clearly?
sure. Let me know
Yeah,
if it is good.
that's good. That's good for me, but
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry. Okay, okay. Back at Mehrabad, we now had an extra guest for lunch under the teen shed. In Bangalore, Elizabeth had found a peacock in the vegetable market, and Baba had allowed her to keep him. He was called Moti, and he returned with us to Mehrabad. But the fun was this: as soon as Katie and Tara, daughter of Patel, the headman of Rangaon, who did the cooking, rang the bell for food, Moti would jump on one of the benches, spread out his tail and wings, and dance and prance and strut. He was very tame, and he loved to be the center of attention. Katie would shout at Moti, but he would not listen to her at all. So she would push him off the bench, and in the return, he would screech loudly at her. It was so funny to watch Katie and Moti. Baba's Gadi, Diwan, in the bracket, was and still is under the tin shed. I put a little table cloth on it so that split food would not stain it. And Baba sat where with us all. I served Baba his food, and then we took our food and sat around him. Sometimes instead, Baba ate in my room sitting on my bed. Our third tour took us by train instead of the blue bus to the east side of India, to Calcutta and back to Mehrabad. We left at the beginning of July 1940 and spent several weeks in Ranchi, a hill station fairly near Calcutta, and a couple of days sightseeing in Calcutta before our return. We were again at Mehrabad at the end of July 1940, this time for the 3 months. but we saw little of Baba during this time. He was now in strict seclusion, working with his musts. We all were in a period we were all in a period of stricter discipline, stricter discipline too. Some were given silence, many were not to write, and we had only one meal a day, which was at noon. Baba also divided the women into groups, and no one except Kitty, who was the go between, was allowed to talk with those outside her group. Baba at this time too had us all gather in the kitchen at 5 a.m. to sing the seven names of God. This took about 20 minutes, and Mani accompanied us on the harmonium. As I said, poor Elizabeth hated to get up early, and we will watch her coming very sleepily down the stairs from the upper floor of the retreat. She carried a lantern, but her eyes were closed, and we were in a great suspense until she reached the kitchen safety. In November 1940, we set off on our fourth blue bus tour. Again, on this tour, we traveled much of the way by train. This trip was a very long one, taking us from Ceylon, from Sri Lanka in bracket, in the south, to Lahore in the north, to Quetta in the northwest, near the border of British India and Afghanistan, of what now is Pakistan. We froze in Quetta and roasted in Lahore, and all got rather thin as we were still on our partial fast. I remember going towards Quetta. The landscape was very lonely. On either side of the road rose huge bare mountain bare mountains so high that we could not see their tops from the little windows of the bus. And against these mountains, our bus looked like a matchbox. It was very, very cold. We arrived at Har Dark Bungalow. There were no other buildings for miles around, and it was just a resting place where we were to stop for a couple of nights before continuing our journey towards Quetta. Baba told Kitty to take me up quickly to the small dark bungalow. Money was a little way behind us, so Kitty and I were the first one to enter the house. In this very isolated place, a Pathan, very well dressed and wearing a nicely ironed and folded snow white turban, came forward and spoke to Kitty in Urdu. I knew some Urdu, but I did not speak to men. Kitty spoke none at all, so she spoke to him in Marathi. I think she was trying to tell him to wait until money arrived, but he, being a Pathan, of course, did not understand Marathi. So he was speaking Urdu to Kitty, and she was speaking Marathi to him. And neither of them understood a single word that the other was saying. It was so funny. At times, Kitty made me laugh. Kitty, I told her, he does not understand Marathi. He does not know the language. So this is the Blue Bus Tour for November 1940 to July 1941. Blue Bus Tour 5, September 1941 to November 1941. Oh, it's too big.
So that time the bus would go up to Ceylon. How was it actually during 1940s? Any idea, Ravi?
So
And it is also said that the bus was there, but many parts of this journey was also on train. So I think it was mix of both.
No, I think they used to take the bus also in train.
The ferry.
I'm sorry, ferry, right.
Yeah.
yeah, the ferry might be they took the bus. It's full India to Afghanistan, Pakistan, everything. Okay. Oh, said Kitty. Unfortunately, at that moment, money walked in. We spent a day or two up there. It was icy cold with freezing winds blowing across the mountains. The cold made us hungry, and all we had to eat was plain dal, raw onions, and fortunately plenty of naan. But we were very happy to have something hot to eat. When our food ran out, we had to leave that place because there was no place to buy any provisions. There was nothing up there at all. And Baba told us that his father had walked across these mountains in his search for him. On we went until we came to a small settlement. It was a place like an inn where people could come for food or to ask for directions, and so many Pathans were gathered there. Baba noticed three horses tied up nearby, and he chatted with some Pathans and then asked them, "Are they good horses?" "Oh, yeah, oh, yes," replied the owners. "Shall we race for you?" Baba said. "Yes, I will give the winner a prize." The three owners jumped on their horses and entertained Baba and us all with an exciting race. And Baba did give the winner a little money. From this point, from this point on, we needed an escort through the mountains because there were decades hiding in the lonely passes and it was dangerous to travel alone. Some Baluchis were their rifles ready, accompanied us in a jeep until we came again to a safe place. Then they turned back and we went on our way to Quetta. We arrived in Quetta in the spring and the many fruit trees were there blossoming. We did not recognize Quetta at all. Since my first visit there with Baba in 1924, it had suffered a severe earthquake and so many of the houses had been demolished and rebuilt. In those early days, some of the buildings had been very smart, but the new buildings were made from bricks and were very simple. However, they were safer to be in the during an earthquake and were very comfortable and homey. It was still very cold, and one day we had a huge hailstorm. The hailstones were as big as eggs, and in the morning we could not open our door because the bank of hailstones resting against it had turned into block of ice. We only cooked once a day while we were there, but we could have naan with fresh butter and honey at other times. How delicious it was! And despite the cold, Baba was fasting for some time. He had me beg He had me beg him just an apple or two with clove and little sugar in the middle, where the core had been taken out. There were times when Baba put much strain on his body. Chatti Baba, the must had been brought to Quetta, and one day Baba took us to his room to show us how he was living. We were wrapped up in the warm coats, and we could hardly believe our eyes. Chatti Baba had poured water on the floor of his room, and he was sitting there in the middle of it. Just seeing him made Norina exclaim, "Oh my God, how can he do that? It's so cold." We were half freezing, and Baba explained to us, "See, a must is like that. He's not conscious of his body." It was Quetta that Elizabeth found another of many dogs that Baba allowed her to keep. This fortunate dog was named Foundy. On that fourth tour, in addition of some of Elizabeth's pet, we took a goldfish in a bowl. Baba gave his goldfish into Mani's care, and really it was more a silver fish than a goldfish. She nursed the bowl in her lap when we traveled and when necessary, changed the water. On this tour, we again spent a little time in Ajmer, and Ajmer was very unusual water. There's a lot of mica in the soil in this area, and this leaches into the water supply. The taste is not at all nice. and the water looks as if it has an oily foam on it. Nearly everyone had upset stomachs from drinking it. While we were there, the water in the goldfish bowl needed changing, which Money carefully did. But when she returned a few hours later, there was no fish in the bowl. She looked around and found him on the floor. The water with Mika must have been so awful for him that he jumped out of the bowl. While we were in the Ajmer too, Kitty came to hear of a European woman who was returning to England and who had a piano that she wanted to sell. Kitty knew that the piano was my favorite instrument and that I had learned to play in my childhood. She herself had taught music in England before coming to stay with Baba. Kitty asked Baba if we could buy the piano as it was second hand and not very expensive. She must have asked Baba very sweetly as Baba agreed, and the piano was bought and sent to our room at Mehera. In June 1941, Baba sent Elizabeth, Norina, and Nadine back to the United States. Kippy and Founy, Elizabeth's two dogs, went with her, and the rest of us returned to Mehrabad, which we reached in mid-July 1941. Mehrabad, back at Mehrabad, Kitty gave me lessons every 4 days on the piano Baba had bought in Ajmer. At first, I told her, Kitty, I haven't touched a piano for years. How can my fingers work? And she replied, oh, yes, you will play beautifully to start with, Kitty. Kitty taught me some children's tunes. It was a little difficult to begin with, but I soon got the knack of it again. One day I was alone in the east room when Baba came in. He gestured towards the piano. I knew Baba would enjoy something with a lively tune, and I played Do Ye Ken John Phil, Do Ye Ken John Phil for him. Okay. Baba was very pleased with it. Then Kitty said, you know, Mehra, I have a very nice idea. You will like it very much. What is it? I asked. And Kitty opened a music book, and there was a blue Danube. Danube. I can hardly play the children's tunes, and you want me to play this? I said, sight reading music is very difficult. I remember at school how nervous I would get during sight reading exams. See how beautiful it sounds. Kitty replied, and she played it for me. Again, Kitty was encouraging and convinced me I could do it, and she did teach me a page of it. In September 1941, we left Mehrabad for the last trip in the blue bus. We went first to Panchgani, where we stayed for 2 months, and then in November, we went down to Karwar. There's a quite long story about our stay in Karwar. Mani, myself, Katie, Tharman Masi, Walu, Kitty, Rano, Margaret, and Irene below, and some others were there with Baba for 10 days. We stayed in a very new house a little way from the town. It was a rather ordinary house, but convenient. One day, Baba took us for a morning walk. After perhaps half a mile, we turned to the left and came across a cool, shady grove of lovely pine trees. They had very fine needles instead of leaves, and the ground was covered with these needles, which were very soft to walk on. We followed Baba through the grove and came to the beautiful beach. It was not a straight beach, but part of the lovely bay. So the waves broke very gently on the shore. How lovely it is, Baba said. He turned around, and Baba himself looked so beautiful by the sea. We all gathered around him to admire the view. He told us, "You can all do what you like, talk together or walk or whatever." Baba wanted to have a walk alone, which meant that we should not follow him. Baba walked very, very fast and went far away, and we stood talking together until he returned half an hour later. Baba so loved to walk. "Now we will go home," Baba told us. As we were walking back to the shade of that lovely grove of pine trees, Baba heard whispering and giggling behind him. Baba turned around to see Mani and Katie whispering together and looking as if they wanted to say something to him, but did not know how to begin. So Baba asked, "What were you talking about? What is it?" "Oh, Baba," they replied, we would love to learn to swim." "Swim?" Baba said. "You want to learn how?" "Yes, Baba. How lovely it is here. The sea is not at all rough. This is the perfect place to learn." Baba turned and looked at me. "If Mehra says yes, if she wants to learn how to swim, then you can too. Otherwise, no." Mehra say yes. Say yes. They cried. I told Baba, "Baba, I hadn't thought of it, but it would be nice to learn. I really don't mind either way." "No," Baba said. "The others can only learn if you want to." Mera say yes, say yes. Katie and Mani together begged me. So I said, "Yes, Baba, it would be nice." When we got home, Margaret explained the various strokes to us and how we had to breathe. Baba told us, "You must first practice on pillow. Lie on the pillow on your tummies and move your hands and feet together. Then it will be easy for you when you try it in the sea." It was very, very hot, but Mani and I did practice in our room. When we got tired and too hot, we went to see how the others were doing. They were all there, on the tummies, on the floor, young and old, plump and thin, practicing breaststroke. It was such a funny sight. We were so amused that we stood there and watched them for some time. So we practiced like this every day. Before we went to swim in the sea, Irene below called me to her room. "Mira," she said, "I know you don't have a swimming costume. I have a nice pair of knitted slacks that you can wear if you like." Irene was bigger and taller than me, so the slacks were a little long and loose, but I was happy with them as they covered my legs. The next day, we set off for the beach to put our lessons into practice in the sea. No one had a proper costumes, and we all looked very funny in the various outfits we had chosen to swim in. Margaret and Aaron held me in the water and showed me how to move my arms and legs for the breaststroke. It was a new experience for me to be in the water with the waves bobbing up and down. So that first time I held on tightly to them. Kitty and Rano must have been teaching Katie and Money. Then we returned to our house and again practiced on our pillows and tried to learn to coordinate our arms and legs. We swam very well on our pillows, but in the water we had no balance. We just sank to the bottom. After 3 or 4 days of swimming in the sea, we still could not swim very well. I could do a stroke or two, but the waterlogged slacks pulled my legs down. "Mehra, you do know how to swim?" Margaret encouraged me. "You should not wear those slacks. They are pulling your legs down and you can't work with your feet." But I had no costume, so I continued to wear the slacks. Then Baba said, "Tomorrow I am coming to see how well you have learned to swim. You are all to do 10 strokes each, and then after that, no more swimming." The next day, Baba took us all to the beach and he stood on the shore to watch us swim. Baba told us, "I will clap my hands up to the count of 10 and you take a stroke on each clap. If you can do 10 strokes, you know how to swim. I was to go first. Margaret took me took me way out until I was up to my chin in the water. Now, don't be nervous, Mehera, she told me. You know how to swim. She gave me my position in the water and I was on my own. Baba clapped one and I took my first stroke. Two, the water come up to my chin. Three, up to my nose. Four, up to my eyes. Five, and I was completely underwater. By the time I had done 10 strokes, I was at the bottom of sea and they had no pull me out. And they had to pull me out. I look around at Baba. What is Baba saying? Is he satisfied? Did I pass the test? Very good, Baba said. Very good. I'm happy. Now come out. Oh, I was so happy. I was past the test. Then everyone went one by one. Katie was next. Margaret took her out into the water. Baba clapped one, two, three, four, five, and she was on the bottom of the sea. Good, Baba said. Good, now come out. It was now Mani's turn. Margaret positioned her in the water and moved away. Baba clapped one and down. Mani went to the bottom. She could not even do the two, three, and four strokes that we did. In fact, she could not even do the first stroke. Why didn't she do a few strokes like Mehera and Katie? Baba asked Margaret. Baba, Margaret replied, her legs are very long and they unbalance her. No, Baba, no, Baba said. She must learn a few strokes. I will give her a few more days to learn, and you all come with her and teach her. So Mani went swimming with Rano, Margaret, and Kitty for the next few days. They held her in the water and showed her the strokes. But at this time, she still did not quite learn how to swim. From Karwar, we moved to Belgaum, a town where we later stayed at the beginning of new life. We were there at a short time and finally we returned to Mehrabad. The tires of bus were now completely worn out and we had halting trip back to Mehrabad Hill arriving at the end of November 1941. So is there any significance for this swimming and all those stuffs? Is it a sea like a ocean of something like that? Significance like that? Maybe. Means who suppose one person is taking one stroke, another is five strokes. Is it something like that capability or something? I don't know. Just have a question. Okay. Then
Ashish,
yeah,
though not related to swimming, the ocean reminds me of that we are all a drop in the ocean.
yeah.
That relevance can come in terms of the spiritual thing. Uh, Others can join or comment.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Anybody wanted to take further or shall I continue?
Yeah.
I can read
I
if you.
yeah. Yeah. You read. I think this is in Karwar, right, Ashish? What we were reading.
Yes. Yeah.
Karwar in Karnataka. Yeah. How you go? Go ahead. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So this is introduction, not by Mehera. After the Blue Bus tours until his second accident in December 1956, Baba continued to travel constantly in India, contacting masts and also the poor and the mad. He set up his headquarters in places such as Dehradun, Mahalabeshwar, Hyderabad, and Satara, and from these bases traveled with a few men monthly to seek out masts. From time to time, Baba returned to Mehrabad or after 1944 to Merazad for short stays. 1 second, let me. Okay. Until 1943, Baba took all the women in the ashram to his various headquarters, but in Lahore in 1943, he divided the women's ashram. From that time, only Mehera, Mani, and Mehru always accompanied Baba on his travels. They would wait at Baba's base camps for him to return from his mast trips. Ranu, Kitty, and Margaret took turns going with Baba to help with arrangements and with taking care of Mehera while traveling. Elizabeth, Norina, and Nadine had returned to the West in June 1941. The other women in the ashram, Eastern and Western, remained on Mehrabad Hill, and from time to time, Baba sent for them to visit him wherever he was. From 1944, Baba, accompanied by Mehera, Mani, Mehru, and Margaret, stayed at Mehrazad for brief periods. The other women remained at Mehrabad. In 1946, Margaret and Irene were sent to the West, and some of the Eastern women in the ashram were sent to their respective houses in Bombay and Pune. On 16 October 1949, Baba, accompanied by Mehera, Mani, Mehru, and Dr. Goher, who had come to stay in 1947 along with Men Mandali, left from Ahmednagar on the new life. Throughout the 40s, Baba very gradually lifted many of the restrictions that he had given Mehera during the Mehrabad Hills years and earlier. For example, Baba slowly allowed Mehera to read books, to hear a man's name spoken, to see men passing by when traveling, and so on. From 1947 onwards up to 1959, Baba visited Bombay many times for darshan programs, to set off to various parts of India for mast trips, to depart for the West, or for medical checkups and treatments. Baba usually stayed with Nariman. Baba usually stayed with, Baba usually stayed with Nariman and Arnavaz at Ashiana. And quite often, Baba brought Mehera and the women with him. Baba told Arnavaz to entertain Mehera and the other women by taking them to the cinema, to restaurants, for sightseeing, and on picnics. In this way, Baba showed the women something of the world outside the ashram. So Baba slowly removed his restrictions on Mehera to prepare her for the new life. The new life, Baba said, was to be a completely different phase where there would be no restrictions and no purdah. One order that Baba never lifted, however, was that men were not permitted to touch Mehera. And it was only much later, after Baba had dropped his body, that Mehera slowly began to talk to men. Even this, Baba had prepared her for by having her greet the men Mandali for the first time on 31st January 1968. So there's a map, it's Mir Baba's headquarters, where Mehera stayed during Baba's 1940s mass tours. Yeah, in many places. What can I tell you now? This is Mehera, I think. What can I tell you now? Our life on the women's side was quite different from the life of the men, Mandeli. They accompanied Baba on must trips, met many people with Baba, and interpreted his discourses to others. We, on the other hand, stayed in the house, wherever it was, cooked and cleaned Baba's room, took care of his clothes, sewed and read when Baba permitted it, and waited for him to return. So I don't have lots of stories such as Erech does, who was out and about with Baba. Our lives were secluded and made up of small things. There were not so many incidents or highlights, but I will tell those that come to my mind. Now, this is Dehradun and Rishikesh, Lonavala to Mehrabad, and in 1942. After the Blue Bus tours, we were in Mehrabad for a short time. Then early in 1942, Baba took us all to Dehradun for over 7 months. In Dehradun, we stayed in a very nice big bungalow in a quiet area. Baba was constantly coming and going for his must work. The war must have been at a serious point at this time, because just before Baba left on the must trip, he told us, quote, "Now you all have to learn self-defense. If India were to be invaded, now you all have to learn self-defense if India were to be invaded," Baba said. "You are not to fall into the invaders' hands." Baba told Margaret to teach us self-defense, and he gave us all wooden sticks with which to defend ourselves. Every evening at 6, Margaret blew her whistles and gathered together for our self-defense lessons. Margaret was a very good teacher and gave us many useful tips, but we soon had to give up practicing with the wooden sticks. Sultan and her daughter Dawla, who were also with us, would get so excited during our lessons that we could not trust them, not to hit us hard with these sticks. They were very dangerous, so we stopped using the wooden sticks and used instead rolled up newspapers. We went June 1942 in nearby Rishikesh. Our bungalow was on top of a cliff overlooking the Ganges, and it was very beautiful there. About 40 or 50 steps led down the cliff to the river, and all our water had to be carried up these many steps. As there was no running water in the house, every evening when the sun was low, Baba let us go down to the river where we washed our clothes. We were in Rishikesh during the summer, and it was often very hot. The Ganges, however, was very cold since its water came from melting snows, and washing in this icy water cooled us down. Our clothes dried very quickly on the still warm rocks. Our house in Rishikesh had 2 stories, and the top floor had quite a narrow balcony all the way around it. One day, just Mani and I were alone upstairs. Katie and the others were down in the kitchen, when suddenly a monkey jumped on onto the balcony near our room. He was not the friendly kind of monkey, and he was very big. Moni and I tried to frighten him away, but this monkey did not want to budge. He bared his teeth at us, and he was not smiling. He was letting us know that he was not frightened of us. Now I knew that these monkeys are not at all afraid of women, and I had an idea. Moni, I told her, put on your slacks and draw a mustache on your face. Then that monkey might think you're a man and go away. So Moni drew a mustache above her lips, put on her slacks, and got a stick. She sauntered over to the monkey and brandished her stick at him. Again, he bared his teeth. He was not fooled. He knew that Moni was not a man, so we had to be patient until he left of his own record. While there, Baba told us to meditate every evening for half an hour. After washing our clothes, we sat on the river bank and thought of Baba. He had told us, "Take my name and think of me. Don't worry if thoughts come. Just repeat my name. It's like a mosquito net. The thoughts that come won't sting you." A very serious accident nearly happened while we were there. Mehru, who was just a teenager, decided to have a swim, and she jumped into the river. There was a very big rock nearby, and somehow it created a strong current like a whirlpool beside it. Mehru got caught in this and was being pulled underneath the rock. "Help, help," she shouted, but those nearby thought she was joking. I was some distance away, but I could see that she was in trouble. So I began shouting too. Just as someone reached out to pull Mehru out of the water, Kitty bravely jumped in with all her clothes on, but she also got caught in this current and had to be rescued too. After that close call, there was no more swimming in the Ganges.
Mahu, I just wanted to tell that the part which was there above, that is, remember me and take my name. I think remembering Baba's name at all times is a very good message in the paragraph above. And I would request if Ashish can highlight it or underline it.
Which one, Ashok?
See, if you go to take my name and think of me, don't worry
Yeah.
if thoughts come, just repeat my name. It's like a mosquito net. The thoughts would that that come won't sting you. I think this is a very good takeaway or something we should always remember. Jai Baba.
Like a
Yeah,
mosquito
when we
net.
meditate, yeah, this is very important. That's the best meditation, to repeat his name.
Correct,
Shall,
Mahu.
so shall I
Yeah.
continue from here, or someone
Yeah, go
want me to
ahead,
read?
please. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Mm. From Rishikesh, we returned with Baba to Dehradun. We left Dehradun with the Baba in mid-September 1942 to move to Lonavala, not far from Pune, where we stayed until the end of the year. Our bungalow in Lonavala is called Prospect Lodge, and it was a big, sprawling place with a large compound. Baba took us on some lovely walks, and in the evenings, he played gilli danda with us Baba would be captain of one team and money of the other. And I will be on the Baba's side. Baba allowed us to keep on playing when he went on a must tour because it was a good exercise for us.
Just
I remember,
just one pause here. You know, it also talks about Baba playing Gili Danda with early Mandalis in Manzalamim, and it says in Ramju Diary. So when we were reading it, we had an Indian friend who tried to explain to us what Gili Danda is, but we couldn't understand. So we Googled it. Finally, we just got a little bit as to what this Gili Danda play is. Yeah.
gilli means it's a just small stick
Yeah,
and danda means it's a big stick. So you need
yeah.
to hit the
Two
small stick
twigs,
with
two twigs.
the. I used to play at my childhood. Gilli danda.
Yeah, even I have played. Yeah.
I remember too that our compound had a brook flowing through it, and over this brook was a small bridge. We sometimes stood on this bridge and looked into the water, and what do you think we saw? Snakes. The brook was infested with them, and they were not just ordinary gray or brown snakes, but of different colors, especially green, with beautiful patterns on their skins. Baba never spent the night alone. He always had one of the main mandali keep watch while he rested, and he told us that one reason for this was that spirits, unfortunate souls without a physical form, were drawn to him at night, hoping for liberation from their state. They gave him no rest. But if someone were awake in the room with Baba, these souls did not disturb him. The point of my telling you this is that the house they were stayed in Lonavala was haunted by spirit. At night it disturbed us a great deal and terrified poor Gaimai who was with us. Regarding the spirits, I heard about the many. I don't know how how much is true or whatever. Around our samadhi, at the night, some people do the night duties. They have some experiences also, like the night time. Maybe spirit are coming there for liberation or not. I don't know, but I heard these stories from some people.
Yeah, these are the wandered soul. I have heard about it. You know, like unfortunately, they have committed suicide. Suicide is the worst thing that anybody can do. So they can't really take in body and the incarnation. They're just wandering around in they're not even in Sada world, in astral world. So you know, it takes a long time. So when they see a bundle of love and light like Baba or other mandalis that have that experience, they are immediately drawn to them, and they stick to Baba, or they try to grab. And that's why even up to the end, Baba had a night watchman. Yeah,
So,
they're
do Baba
trying to
give them
get help.
liberation? Do Baba give them
No,
liberation?
no,
No.
no, Baba. You know, of course, as God, there must be a reason that He gives a liberation. He has given liberation to other souls, but not to these wandering souls, because see, they're not their sanskaras has stopped in the middle, because they got their own life in the middle of that incarnation. So it's a totally messed up. um, they don't know that they're doing this to themselves, but yeah, nobody can. I mean, it's they could get a temporary relief being around the advanced soul, because advanced soul they spread a very good peaceful energy and this, and they benefit from it. But for coming back, I heard it's not possible till their duration is finished.
So it's about duration, or they need to finish the sanskaras by going to someone's body or something like that?
Yeah, that's what I mean. They have to finish, the remaining sanskaras. Is like they like to eat, they like to sleep, they like to dance, whatever. They find a body that's prone for them and easy for them to take over. Yeah, and then so they do. And sometimes poor that person even don't know. They just feel very strange, but they don't know they're being possessed by these people. Yeah, they keep on doing it till a long time, till probably by help of Baba or God, their time comes to, move further, move ahead, like that.
And any message for the Baba lovers by Baba, like they will not get affected by such a spirits or something like that? Means,
I haven't heard. I know that a few of Baba lovers were psychic, very psychic. They could easily, get in touch with the souls in other world or this and that. But Baba particularly warned. Baba warned people. It's also in discourses to do any occult experiences means to speak with these spirits or bring them along, or even give them an opportunity for them to even come to you or and stuff like. Baba said absolutely not, you shouldn't be doing occult. So yeah, like that.
yeah. Jai Baba.
Deva.
Ashish, I just want to tell you, like to add on to what Mahu said, there is a full chapter in discourses. The chapter is the place of occultism in spiritual life. It's from page 179 to 200, so you can look it up. And there's also a recorded discourse uh, in the Mehera Awakens.
Sure. Yeah. Jai Baba. On 22nd December 1942, Baba left Lonavala to return to Meherabad for some weeks. One day before leaving, on 21st December, Baba performed the engagement ceremony thereof Nariman and Arnavad's Dada Chanji by placing rings on their ring fingers. At Meherabad Hill on 27th December 1942, for the first time, Mehra's birthday was celebrated on a grand scale. Women who were close to Baba were invited from Bombay, Pune, and elsewhere to stay on Meherabad Hill. For years, Mehera had worn only very simple cotton saris, but on this occasion, at Baba's wish, she was dressed up from head to toe in a new clothes. Her sari was of white tulle, embroidered lightly with gold and silver threads, and she wore a necklace from which hung the letters Meher Baba. Arnavaz recalls her beauty on that occasions. Mehra looked so very beautiful. Really, she looked like an angel. It was not only her physical beauty that we saw, and she was very beautiful, but her internal beauty too that radiated from her. Meherabad, Mahabaleshwar, Panchgani, Lahore, and Kashmir, 1942. In February 1943, Baba moved the women's ashram again, this time from Meherabad to a house called Valley View in Mahabaleshwar. There Baba and Mehera sometimes went for short drives in a little horse-drawn Phaeton carriage. They spent February and March in Mahabaleshwar, and then in April 1943 moved to Jalki, Bangalore in nearby Panchgani for a further 2 months. In Mahabaleshwar and Panchgani, Baba gave a preview of the division that was to happen in the women's ashram in Lahore later that year. Baba came only to the room shared by Mehra. Mani and Mehru and none of the other women were allowed to even look at him without permission. Baba was on tour for a month while they were in Panchgani. And every Sunday during that time, he had all the women keep silence, take only one meal of tea and bread, and do not work and do no work. June 1943 was spent at Meherabad. While in Panchgani, Baba had permitted Mehra and others to ride horses, and when they returned to Meherabad, 5 horses were kept there for a little while. The stable, the stable was in the woman's compound, and they were fed and groomed by below, Iron below, who loved horses. Every day Mehra went for a good gallop on the hill with Meru keeping watch over her on foot. In July 1943, Baba and Ashram moved to Lahore for 5 months. It was here that the women's ashram was partitioned. The ashram occupied 3 bungalows. In the first with Baba, where Mehra, Mani, Mehru, Walu, Kitty, Margaret, Rano, and Naja later on. In the second state, Katie, Irene, Mansari, Tharman, Tharman Masi, Pilamai, and her daughter Sila, Sunamasi, Khurshid, Tara, and Jangu, Meru's brother, Jangu, and Naja for a time. About 2 furlongs away from Baba's house were the main Mandali's quarters. The women in the first bungalow were allowed to visit the woman in the second bungalows twice a week, and bungalow number 2 inmates were allowed to visit Mehra and woman in the first bungalow once a week. But the second bungalow of women were not permitted to see Baba at all or send any messages to him. So strict was this order that they could not even look in the direction of Baba's bungalow. Any specific reason for this one? It's,
You
like,
see, it's very hard to figure out what Baba really doing. All of this work that he did, every action that he did was very uh, symbolic, and we cannot understand what exactly what he is doing. Just notice that this period, 1939 to 1945, is the World War II, which was very intense and devastating, much more than World War I. So in this time, Avatar was living, and imagine what he was. I'm sure he was helping the people in the war, and God knows what he was doing and so forth. So uh, we don't know what Baba was doing. So don't try to understand.
understand the things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to understand it, really.
Don't use the mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Ashish,
mean,
let me read. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, let me read. Yeah. Lahore, July to November 1943. The heat was unimaginable in Lahore. The air was quite still and not a leaf moved. It was like being shut in a box. Although the soil there is very fertile, it is fine, white, sandy soil. And all day long, the sun beat down on the white sand and we baked. When we arrived there, we were greeted by Pilamai from Karachi, who was wearing a long sleeved black blouse. Just the sight of her made me feel even hotter, and we wondered at her choice of clothing. Later, she explained to us that someone had told her Baba did not permit women to have bare arms, and in that climate, All other blouses were sleeveless except that one black one. She too felt very hot in it. Mehera. Sometimes a sandstorm would blow across the desert and we would rush to close all the doors and windows. Those storms were awful. Everything would be covered with white dust, and although we were there in monsoon season, there was hardly any rain. We waited for rain all through July, August, and September. When will the rain, when it will it rain and cool down? We wondered. And then it would start to sprinkle, and we would be so excited, but it would stop soon stop. Somehow, we always felt hungry in Lahore. We ate breakfast, but by lunchtime, we were very hungry. So we really enjoyed a good sized helping of rice and dal. Then 4 o'clock came and it was tea time. There were some Baba lovers in Lahore, and one of them was a very sweet woman who made and sent us delicious currant, currant buns. By tea time, we were so hungry that we ate all those buns as if we had not eaten all day. We also ate our evening meal with relish. Always, always before we had lost our appetites in very hot summer, we were still wonder to this day why we were so hungry in Lahore. We had a nice new rented house a little outside Lahore, but it was rather small. Just money, myself, Meru, and Walu with Kitty. Margaret and Rano, one minute, and later I think Naza. Don't change the yeah. I can expand on my mobile. Yeah, I think Naza stayed there with Baba. The house had a flat roof, and at night we climbed up on the roof and slept under the open sky.
Mhm.
How could we sleep in our rooms in that heat? Even our mattresses were hot. We had no servants, so we could not manage to take our whole beds upstairs. But every night we struggled up to the stairs carrying our mattresses. The first night we went up there thinking how cool it would be, but we had forgotten that the sun had been beating on the cement roof all day. Our mattresses got even hotter, and when we lay down on them, our backs got hotter too. But still, it was cooler than our rooms, and sometimes we could we even got a little breeze. And under the stars, Margaret would tell us very funny stories and make us laugh. This is something standard in northern India. Even I have slept on the roof under the sky in my childhood. Yeah. Baba that in Karwar we had only begun to learn how to swim and that we wanted to learn properly. Baba was also enthusiastic about us learning. Now that you have started to learn, why leave it half done? He told us. Baba got permission for us to use an Olympic sized swimming pool in Lahore, and we girls from both houses went together to this pool in a bus. The pool was very lovely with water constantly rushing in and out of it from huge pipes so that the flow of the water created little waves. Always on the move. Margaret was our instructor and she was an excellent teacher. I learnt side stroke and overarm, but Money did not quite grasp it. She could do a few strokes and then down to the bottom she went. One day Mani asked a newcomer to our ashram to watch her practice her strokes to make sure she did not drown. Mani always had someone hold her up by the waist of her swimming costume so she could not sink to the bottom. Because Mani started out very nicely, this person relaxed her hold and turned to chat with someone standing nearby. When she turned back around, Mani was nowhere to be seen. Oh, Mani, she panicked. Where have you gone? She looked around her, but Mani had vanished. Then she looked down, and there she saw Mani on the bottom of the pool. Mani was quickly pulled out to safety. We all went perhaps 3 times to this pool, but Mani did sank rather quickly. So Baba arranged for just Mani, myself, and Margaret to go to a swimming pool at Mohammedan Girls Boarding School. Margaret had recently been bitten by a rabid dog, and though she was anxious about how the water would affect her, to please Baba, she bravely overcome her fear and went with us. It was very private there, as the schoolgirls were all in a parda, and I now had a swimming costume. Once in the pool, I struck out very nicely to the other side and reached it without effort. See, I told you, Margaret said. I told you. You knew how to swim. Those slacks were pulling your legs down. Now you have light and balanced in the water, and you swam so well. Now do it once again. So I swam to the other side and got out. She came for 5 or 6 days to this pool, and Mani finally learned to swim too. So there are so many places in Lahore where probably it will be interesting to track them down, Mohammedan Girls School. And there is Olympic side pool which was there in 1940s in Lahore. So some old pool it must be. At that time there could be just one or two maybe. Kashmir. While we were in Lahore, nearly everyone except Baba and myself got malaria. Baba had made up his mind to go to Kashmir with a few of us, but Mani had now caught it too. Baba considered changing his plans because Mani was not feeling at all well. But she told him, no, Baba, I can still go. Even with this fever, I can get around. So in September, we left for Kashmir. I remember that we traveled by train and car, and that Mani, myself, Meru, and Rano accompanied Baba where are we? From our, no, I think, from our side and from the men mandali. Kaka Baria and Chanji, although there may have been others. We were there for only 8 days and we stayed at the Hotel Sam in Srinagar. It was a very nice hotel, not very big, with a lovely big terrace upstairs. Hotel Sam in Srinagar. Yeah. Yeah. Next page. Yeah. That served as a dining room with a view of Dal Lake from 3 sides. We stayed in all kinds of places with Baba, and this was not grand, but it was very well kept. Because of Mani's fever, Baba told Kakabaria to let the hotel's kitchen know that they were to send only soup and toast for her. When told, the waiters called out from one to the other, soup and toast, one person, soup and toast, one person, until the message passed from the terrace to the kitchen. So poor Mani, who had never liked soup and toast, had to have tinned soup and toast in bed while we were having delicious food on that nice terrace. Then suddenly she was quite well. Malaria is like that. Every other day you run a fever, and on the days in between you feel quite well. Baba let Mani have breakfast with us and go sightseeing. And in the afternoon, when we went for lunch, the message went out: no soup for one person, food for one person, through all the waiters to the kitchen. So one day Mani was well, and the next day she had fever. Then well again. And every day these funny messages that amused me were passed from the terrace to the kitchen. Then one day they sent soup where Mani was well. Go down. Yeah.
Money was well, and we
And
heard Kakavati.
yeah, yeah. And we heard Kakabaria shouting at the servants down to the kitchen. Why are you sending Mem Sahib soup? She is not sick, as if Mani had never had soup before. From Srinagar, when Mani was feeling better, Baba took us to Gulmarg. Gul means flower and Marg means path. Marg. A very pretty place, some 30 miles away for our outing. In those days, the road ended before reaching Gulmarg, and the only way to get there was on horseback or by foot. Where the road ended, there was a big paddock where many horses for hire. We all picked our horses according to how well we rode. I looked for a spirited one and set off. Baba said he would ride with the men, so we did not wait for him. Then, after we girls had ridden some distance up to this gentle hill, it was not very steep. Mani said, Mehera, you must look back. Look how Baba is riding. I looked around and saw how sweet Baba looked. Baba had chosen a smallest horse, and his legs were hanging down. It was quite horse, and Baba seemed very relaxed and seemed to be enjoying his ride on this pretty bridle path and lovely trees lining it. Chanji and Kaka were on either side of him. On reaching Gulmarg, we left our horses with a groom. The British were still ruling India, and some English people were playing golf on a lovely course there. We saw a hotel, a library, and many little cottages with gorgeous gardens in front of them. From Gulmarg, we climbed up the mountainside to our picnic spot. When we reached the very top, we got such a surprise. We were on a completely flat and lovely plateau. So beautiful it was, huge, spacious, and as green as if the ground were covered with a green velvet carpet. It was ice cold up there with just a gentle breeze blowing. Our cheeks and noses were like ice, and cold felt so nice after our warming climb. We stood there and looked far out to the mountain covered with perpetual snow. The sun was shining on the snow caps, and the ice glistened in the sunlight. It was very beautiful. Yes, it is very nice, Baba said. But come on now, let's eat. When Baba was always a hurry. So we spread our rug and Baba sat down. The cold air and our ride and climb up the mountain had made us really hungry, and we started a delicious lunch of sandwiches and other tasty things. As we were eating, we saw a man coming down a slope far away with a little load on his back. When he came closer, we could see that his load was an enormous block of ice. Between his back and the ice, there was a little padding, and he was harnessed to it like a horse. People like this man are so poor and work so hard. He must have cut the ice from a glacier to bring down to mountain for the British. Where were we? Yeah, to use in their ice boxes. We had now cooled down after our climb and were feeling the cold. So we could imagine how this man must be feeling with ice dripping freezing water through his clothes. Now that's all, Baba said. You have seen what there is to see. We are going down. So down we went to our horses. Horses always like to go home, and mine was eager to gallop, and so was I, as the slope was gradual. I gave him his head. I love galloping, and there I had the cool breeze on my face. Wait, Mehera, Bunny called from behind. Stop, wait for us. But I knew that Baba would not mind. I had a nice gallop. The groom was a little startled too. He did not know that I could ride, and he ran after me to try and catch up. Baba chanted very slowly. Darling Baba looked so sweet on his pony. There, then we returned by car to our hotel. Money was fine that night. She was well and rested well. But the next morning she again had a fever, and, and the kitchen was told soup and toast. We had a very happy time in Srinagar, and Money did recover from the malaria from Srinagar. From Srinagar, we returned to Lahore. Returning to Mehrabad, our life with Baba by no means all treats. As I have told you, our everyday everyday life was spent cooking, sewing, and washing, and when Baba was with us, attending to him. But that does not make a story. This next story, however, is about a treat that was not a treat at all. In November 1943, we left Lahore to return to Mehrabad. Most of the girls and elder women had gone straight back to Ahmednagar by train. Mani, myself, Meru, and Kitty traveled separately with Baba, and on our way back, we stopped at a number of places. Baba first took us to Amritsar to see the Golden Temple, and then we went to Udaipur. Udaipur is a very beautiful place surrounded by high, bare mountains with a lovely lake on the middle of which are two historic palaces. The men Mandali traveling with Baba found a cheap Parsi hotel in the town. But Baba took us girls to a rather grand hotel with a beautiful gardens and a lovely view of the lake. Everything about it was expensive and up to date. I was on the shore, it was on the shore of the lake and was the guest house of a Maharana of Udaipur who at that time, I believe, still lived in this palace on an island in the lake. Rana means Raja or king, and in Udaipur the king is called the Maharana instead of Maharaja. We arrived at a hotel in the morning and was where were I? Yeah, and were feeling very hungry after traveling on empty stomachs. With us, we carried a tin of biscuits and we were about to nibble some of these when Baba told us, "Don't eat any biscuits. Don't spoil your appetites. I want you to enjoy your lunch." Lunchtime finally came and off we went to the very elegant dining room in the hotel. There were many tables set with shining silver, and to give more privacy, screens had been placed in strategic spots around the room. This hotel had a set menu, and we were wondering what delicious dish would be placed before us when the waiters arrived with the first course. Fish patties in white sauce. Poor Mani looked at her place. She was famished, but she had an order from Baba not to eat fish and milk together. And though Baba ate it, this was not a dish he was fond of. Katie was then sent to find out what was to follow. Just cheese and biscuits and some desserts. She returned to tell us. After lunch, we all left the dining room feeling rather disappointed and still quite hungry. We had been expecting a lovely lunch from such a fine hotel. Oh no, Kitty consoled us. The British have a high lunch, but a supper is always good. And Baba said, be sure not to spoil your appetites by eating those biscuits. In the evening, we went again to the dining room with good appetites. Our table was in the far corner of the room with one of the screens next to it and a fireplace on another side. We sat down and wanted to see what treat was in store for us. We could not believe our eyes. The waiter brought fish cakes and white sauce. Baba was now completely out of mood, as we say. He stood up to leave the room, and we quickly got up with him. At that point, Meru slipped on the floor near the fireplace. As she began to lose her balance, she reached out to hold on to the tablecloth to save herself. But Mani quickly whispered to her, "No, you will pull all the dishes on the floor." So Meru lost her balance and fell down. There was a very English couple in the dining room, and rather than standing up with them looking on, Meru decided to crawl on her hands and knees around the table until she was behind the screen, when she could stand up unnoticed and leave the room. She was still very young, so she got the giggles. I scolded her a little because Baba was upset and this was no time for giggles. But now it does not seem very funny to us, too. We quickly followed Baba out of the dining room. Baba sent Kitty to tell the staff how poor the food was and how disappointed we were in the hotel. Back came word that Maharana was having a celebration. Perhaps on another side. We sat down, yeah. perhaps a wedding in his palace on the lake, and that he had taken all the cooks and servants there to serve his guests. Later, when one of the mandali came from their cheap Parsi hotel, Baba inquired, "What did you eat? Such delicious food." He replied, "Dhansak and kebabs, and as much as we could eat." This was a Parsi speciality which we all love. Here were the mandali paying so little in a cheap hotel and eating so well, and here we were with Baba paying so much and starving. Back immediately, Baba told us, "The mandali can move and I will take you there." So we moved to this little hotel and enjoy ourselves so much. It was not at all grand, but we were comfortable and the food was just to our taste. Baba was happy with the place, and so we were happy too. I believe Baba contacted a must while we were there. Wherever Baba went, it was always for his work. Our travels were never just for pleasure. And if Baba took us sightseeing, at the same time he would send the men mandali out to look for musts for him to contact. With Baba, work and pleasure went hand in hand. I think we stayed in Udaipur for about 8 days. From Udaipur, we returned to Mehrabad, arriving at the end of November, and we spent the remainder of the year there.
May I interrupt
Yeah,
here?
yeah, I think we can close also reading for the day. Yeah.
These tours, are they linked with the bus tours or are they same?
I don't think these are specific must tours. They were more of sightseeing tours, and Baba is spending time. But during this, he was the
Also,
purposes. Yeah, a few musts were contacted, but it doesn't look like, as we have read in the Wayfarers, these are not particularly must tours to me. I mean,
okay.
don't know. Like blue bus tours were not must tours, right? But during those tours, Baba has contacted a few musts.
Then in my
Mamaji,
memory, I think there are sort of three tours that Baba undertook. One is the earliest sort of going from place to place, different places he covered and came back to Mehrabad. That is his first sojourn here and there. And then the Mars tour, and then the tour that is in the blue bus.
Yeah.
Probably these are the three different
Correct.
say travels that Baba undertook all over the place.
Yes. Because must tours were generally very hectic. Just keep moving from here. The Baba is staying in Lahore for 6 months, and then goes to Kashmir for a few days, and they are doing sightseeing, going to Gulmarg and having a picnic there. But we never know. Baba even while walking around, if he's having a glance at somebody, that could be his work. We can't comprehend actually. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
So a Parsi hotel in Udaipur, right? Where all this. So it will be interesting. I think some people must have found out already, I suppose. There may not be many Parsi hotels there. And there was a Hotel Sam which we read, right? Where was that? Hotel Sam. Yeah. Jai Baba. Oh, in Kashmir. Yeah. In Srinagar, the Hotel Sam. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, it's time.
Yeah. Jai. Yeah.
yeah, Jai Baba.
Any final comments from you?
Yeah, I see Sanjay ji and all. even in what we read today, there is mention of must work also being done. So I think the Wayfarers were the total chronology, but in this book, Mehera, there is still some mention of must work interspread. That means it
Yeah,
is
yeah, correct.
so it's all a collage, and so there can be
Yeah,
common
yeah,
mentions.
correct. So this is not a particularly a must trip, though Baba has contacted a few must during the period that we were reading today.
Yes.
Yeah, so Lahore and Srinagar and Karwar, what we read. Yeah,
And I think what comes out very distinctly is that this was the time of the Second World War. I think Mahu mentioned that, and that
yeah,
is
yeah.
important because there are a lot of things happening in the background which is beyond comprehension to the
Yeah,
common human mind.
right.
Jai Baba.
So JK, any comments from your end? You just joined. Kama? Okay, he's I think. Yeah. Okay. I think we
Jai
can
Baba.
wind up. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, see
Jai
you all
Baba.
tomorrow. Jai Baba. Jai Baba. Thank you.